Hare Krishna. So in last 13 chapters, we have discussed about soul and supreme soul, that is all living entities and God. And now in this 14th chapter, we are going to discuss about Prakriti or a nature, which is also an energy of God only. So how this nature works and how it affects our behavior or our human beings, that we are going to discuss in today's chapter. So this 14th chapter is titled as three modes of material nature, and it can be divided into three parts. From shloka number 1 to 4th, it is about the glory of this chapter or importance of knowing this knowledge about Prakriti. Then in the second portion, starting from the 5th shloka of this chapter till 18th shloka, we will understand about the details of these modes, these gunas. What are these three modes? And in the last portion of this chapter, from 19th shloka to 27th shloka, we will discuss how we can be freed from the effect of these three modes. And first of all, why we should get out of, or we should get out of the effect of these three modes, that also we are going to discuss in this chapter. So let us begin with the first shloka, in which Krishna explains, or he declares basically, that this knowledge about the nature, or this knowledge about the three modes of nature, is a supreme wisdom, and it's a best of the all knowledge. Why it is so? Because by knowing this knowledge, one gets supreme perfection. What is this supreme perfection? That we will see towards the end of this chapter. Basically, this supreme perfection is being or becoming happy in this very life, enjoying perfectly in this very life, will be explained. Then in the second shloka, Krishna explains, by becoming fixed in this knowledge, person attains spiritual nature. So what is that spiritual nature? Spiritual nature means when a person is living under the spiritual nature, he will not be affected by the happiness and distress caused by the situations around him, and he will be transcendental to all the dual kind of situations. And in the fourth shloka, Krishna explains, he declares basically that sarvayonishu kanteya murtayah sambhavantiya tasham brahma mahadyonir aham bija pradhapita. He declares that, O son of Kunti, it should be understood that all species of life are made possible by the birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed giving father. So two things here. One is a father and another is a mother. Who is mother here? Mother is a Prakriti, material nature, and a father is Krishna himself. In the beginning of the creation, all living entity, all souls take different bodies. They enter into 84 lakhs of species. How does it happen? By the glance of Krishna. And that is why Krishna is called seed giving father here. So now going to the second portion of this chapter, which is about understanding these three modes. So let us begin with the understanding what is this mode first. These modes or guna are basically nothing but an energy, or it's a constitutes of the material nature. These three modes cannot be seen by our naked eye, or it cannot be experienced by our senses, but we can know about its presence by its effects. Just like electron, if electricity is passing through the wire, we cannot see it, or we cannot smell it, or we cannot even hear about it, but we know about that current by its effect. When we touch it, we get a shock. So even though we are not able to see the electrons, but we get to know that electrons are moving by its effects of giving us a current. So similarly, these three modes, even though we cannot see it, but we can perceive them through their effects. Wherever these three modes are present, they'll exhibit various nature, and from that nature we can understand that one of the, or two of the, or three of these modes are present there. So these three modes are Sattva Gun, Rajogun and Tamogun. Krishna says in the 5th shloka, material nature consists of three modes of goodness, passion, ignorance. And when the living entity come in contact with this nature, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So, person who is living in a particular mode, he gets conditioned to that modes. And what does this conditioning mean here? Okay, that we'll understand in the further shloka by its effects. So, in the 6th shloka and in the 11th shloka, Krishna explains that what are the characteristics or what are the guna exhibited by these three modes. So, first is a sattva guna. When a soul or a person is covered by sattva guna, or he has a more of a sattva guna in his personality, that time he will be situated in a happiness. He will remain very peaceful, calm, composed person, and he will be very knowledgeful person. He wants to know about the things and he acts based on the knowledge, not haphazardly or not based on his own whims. So he will act very intelligently when person is in the sattva guna. When person is in a rajo guna, that is explained in the 7th and 12th shloka, that he will have unlimited desires. He will be always hankering and he will be always putting an intense endeavor for gaining something. When person is in rajoguna, he does not discriminate what he needs and what he doesn't need. He blindly wants to possess lot of things. He thinks that possessing one thing will give him happiness, and when he possesses that particular thing, he will not be satisfied with that thing. He wants more. And then furthermore. So throughout his life, he wants to achieve or he wants to gain more and more and more and more in the search of satisfaction, but he will never feel satisfied. And the problem with this search is he do not discriminate what is good or what is bad, what is to be done and what should not be done. When he wants to have something, he becomes mad to get something, and even at the cost of giving pain to other living entities, even at the cost of giving dukkha, miseries to other living entities, or even at the cost of exploiting the material nature or doing harm to the very earth or very nature around us, he will not care for anything. He just want it and he will try his best to get it by all means. So that is a characteristic of rajogun. And now about the tamogun, which is explained in the 8th shloka and the 13th shloka. A person who is in the tamoguna, he is very lazy and he always feels sleepy and tired. Apart from that, he acts very haphazardly or whimsically. That is called madness. Person do not care for knowing or for acting righteously. Even he don't care that what others will think. He simply act out of a whims and very carelessly he acts. So that is in the mode of tamoguna. In the 10th shloka, Krishna explains that any person or any living entity or even any item in this world cannot be in a one particular modes. There will always be change of the modes and he will exhibit different characteristics based on the presence of particular mode in a particular time. Krishna says sometimes the mode of passion becomes prominent, defeating other modes. Sometimes the mode of goodness defeats other modes, and other times the mode of ignorance defeats goodness and passion. In this way, there is always competition for supremacy. You cannot say that particular person, because he is very happy and he is a very knowledgeable person, he is in a mode of goodness only. No. It is to be understood that goodness or a sattva guna is in a more quantity, but still rajoguna and tamoguna are also present in that person, maybe not so prominent. Similarly, tamoguna also, if some person is very lethargic, very lazy, it is not that he is only in tamoguna. There is a mixture of sattva guna and rajoguna also, but their quantity is very less. So that is explained here. And in the 18th shloka, it is explained about the destination of a person based on what kind of gunas he is living in throughout his life. Of course, even though there are three modes present in a particular person, he can be prominently living in one particular modes. So person who lives his life majorly in a sattva guna, he reaches higher planets. Person who lives majorly in a rajoguna, he takes his next birth again on this earth. And a person who is spending his life in a tamoguna will take his next birth either in the hellish planetary system or in the animal kingdom, animal species. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha. So this is about the destination of the person living in a particular mode. In the third part of this chapter, Krishna explains that one should attempt to get out of this material nature and how a person can situate himself above these three modes. So in the 20th shloka, Krishna says, when the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, he can become free from birth, death, old age and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. So here is the point, that we can enjoy in this life by becoming freed from these three modes. How is it so? Because we are always bounded by these three modes, and because of that we are not able to enjoy. We are not free. We are always harassed by three kinds of problems or miseries. What are these three kinds of miseries? First is called adhyatmik. Adhyatmik means miseries caused by his own self, our own selves. For example, problems or distress caused by some mental illness like depression, stress, anxiety. These are all the problems which we cause to ourselves by our own self, by our own mind. So this is called adhyatmic problem, and sometimes we may get injured, our body may get injured, so that will also give us a lot of pain. So that is also called adhyatmic misery or adhyatmic problem. Then second variety of problems are called adhi bhautik. Adi bhautik means the miseries which are caused by other living entities. For example, mosquitoes bites, or some person comes and robs your house, or some boss is giving a lot of stress or a lot of problems, creating a lot of problem in your work, or all these kind of other any problems which are caused by other living entities are called adi bhautik. Then the third kind of problems are called adi daivik. Adi daivik means the miseries or problems which are awarded to the living beings by devatas. Why do devata care to give miseries to human being or any living entities? Based on the karma of those people. So what are the miseries which comes under this category of adidevik? Flood, earthquakes, natural disasters basically. So all these problems which we cannot control, we don't have any control over this. For example, in the summer, if there is an extreme heat, that will give lot of pain to us, but we can't control it. Then in the winter, if there is an extreme cold, well, we don't have any control over that. So these miseries which are imparted to us by devatas are called adhidaivik. So if person situate himself above these three modes, sattva-guna, rajoguna and tamoguna, if person situates himself above these three modes, then he will not feel the miseries caused by these three factors. Even though miseries are there, reasons to be sad are there, but he will not feel sad. He will remain dhira, he will remain sober, he will not be disturbed by these miseries. So that is why we should attempt to get out of these three modes of nature. In the 21st shloka, Arjuna asks very important questions. First question he asks is, by what symptom person can be known when he is in the transcendental nature? Second question he is asking is, what is his behavior? And the third question he asks is, how does he transcend the modes of nature? From shloka number 22nd to 25, Krishna answers first two questions. That is, symptom and a behavior of a person who is above these three modes. The first symptom is, he is undisturbed and he is unconcerned about so many material things. What are those material things which a person becomes unconcerned or undisturbed with? These conditions are social and political issues or other material problems. He will become freed from those problems. He will not care for those things. and he will not be affected by those things. Even if he has to know some social or political issue, as a matter of duty, he will know about that, but he will not get affected by those situations. Then second characteristic is he regards equally happiness and distress. Whether he is in the happiness or the situation around him is distressful, in both the condition he will be very peaceful. He will be happy within. So that is a characteristic of such a person. Then third characteristic of a person is he is equal to praise and blame, honor and dishonor. Generally, we all like to hear glories about ourselves or praise of ourselves. And when somebody criticizes us, we become very upset, very angry, or we get put off. But a person who is above these three modes of nature, who is above Sattoguna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna, he will not get affected by a praise or a blasphemy. He will understand that he is a soul, and whatever praise or a blasphemy he is getting is a temporary. For a few days or a few hours or a few years, he may be getting those praise and blasphemy, but it is not a permanent blasphemy, it is not a permanent praise. And time will change, and all these circumstances will also change. So he will not be affected by the praise and blasphemy. Then the fourth symptom of such a person is he look on a clod, stone and a piece of a gold with an equal eye. Means he looks as the material nature or a material property or a wealth with an equal eye. Whatever is useful for him, whatever is required for him, he will take. He will not accept more than that. And finally Krishna says he treats alike a friend and an enemy. For him, there is no one as a friend or enemy. For him, all living entities are equal, because as explained in the very beginning of this chapter, that he sees all living entities as a son of God. He sees that whether a living entity or a soul is in the animal body, tree body, or a human body, or an insect body, or a bird body, in any body it may be, but it is a son of God, and that person looks at all these living entities with an equal vision and gives them an equal importance, equal respect. He do not see them as a friend or an enemy. And in the 26th shloka, Krishna answers the third and the most important question of Arjuna. Arjuna had asked that by what process one can come above these three modes. So that is answered in the 26th shloka. Krishna says, Mam chiyo avyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samtite tani brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in a full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the three modes of nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So two things are to be stressed here in this particular shloka. First is a full devotional service, and second is a who does not fall down in any circumstances. Means when a person is engaged in a full devotional service to Krishna, when a person is engaged in the service of Krishna, then he will transcend the three modes of nature. Why is it so? Just like when an iron rod is kept constantly under the fire, then slowly the iron rod will become hot and hotter and hotter and hotter, and finally it will become so hot that practically that iron rod will act like a fire. Similarly, when we soul, conditioned soul, will keep ourselves in a touch with Krishna by any means, then slowly we will become pure, or we will come above the three modes of nature. Why? Because Krishna himself is above these three modes. He is completely pure, and when we touch him, we also start getting purer and purer and purer. And finally, if we continue such a full devotional service, then eventually we will also become fully free from these three modes of nature. And what is the full devotional service here? Full devotional service means keeping in touch with Krishna, keep serving Krishna by various means. For example, serving Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When we chant this mantra, what happens, this sound is not an ordinary material sound. It is not affected by these three modes. It is a pure sound, and it is a Krishna himself, purest sound this is. So when we keep chanting this sound, then we will also keep our consciousness in touch with this sound. And because our consciousness is in touch with this transcendental sound, our consciousness will become pure and free from the three modes of nature. Then other means of devotional service are like taking only Krishna prasadam. When we eat a food which is offered to Krishna, then that food will purify our chetana, purify our consciousness. Why is it so? Because whenever we offer a food to Krishna, that food will become free of the three modes of nature. All the foods are contaminated by various modes. For example, meat is considered to be in the modes of tamogun. Then a food which is very spicy, very salty, and quite old, putrid, such kind of food is in the rajoguna. And certain food like sweet, fruits, vegetables, these foods are in the mode of sattva-guna. Of course, these sattva-guna food are better than other two modes of nature, but still this food in the sattva-guna is also affected by sattva-guna, and we want to get free from sattva-guna also. We want to transcend sattva-guna also. So when we offer food to Krishna, any food which is offered to Krishna will become free from these three modes of nature. And that's how when we take that food, we'll also become freed from the three modes of nature. So this is another aspect of devotional service. Likewise, there are a lot of activities in the devotional service, and by doing those activities constantly, we'll gradually come out of these three modes and become freed from the effect of this material nature. So in this regard of the three modes and getting out of these three modes, there is one beautiful incident mentioned in the Puranas. Once there was a very cruel hunter called Mragari. He was living a very, very, very sinful life, and his life was full of tamoguna. He used to eat meat, and he used to live his life outside the village in some cottage which was situated in a very dirty place, basically very tamasic place, and his life was going on. So one day this Mragari, the hunter Mragari, he has gone for the hunting. And when he is hunting, he had one very specific quality. What was that? When he used to hunt animals or birds, he will not kill them fully. He will kill them half and let them suffer. And when he used to see them suffering, then he used to take pleasure in seeing them suffering. So this is a most tamasic activity and very sinful activity. So this Mragari was hunting on that particular day in the jungle, and he had killed lot of animals unnecessary, and all those animals were suffering and crying in a pain. At that time, Narada Muni, the great celestial sage, happened to pass by. And when Narada Muni sees in the jungle that lot of animals and birds are crying in a suffering and crying painfully, so Narada Muni becomes very sad. Narada Muni is not an ordinary person. He is a person situated above these three modes. He is a transcendental personality. And when he sees that living entities are suffering, then he also feels very painful. And he naturally start finding out the cause of their suffering. And suddenly he spots the Mragari. And he observes the Mragari, and he sees that Mragari is willingly, purposefully killing the animals and birds half only, not killing them fully. So when Narada Muni sees that, he becomes very sad, very much perturbed. And he also becomes sad about Mragari also. Why? Because he is able to see that Mragari, who is killing these animals or who is giving suffering to this animal, he himself is also suffering. How he is suffering? First, he is living a life in a tamoguna. That itself is a very suffering. And second is, he is preparing his life for going to the hell or suffering in the hell. So Narada Muni becomes very compassionate, and he goes to meet Mragari. So when Mragari sees that Narada Muni is approaching him, he becomes very alert. And at one point, he becomes very, very much astonished to see Narada Muni. Why is it so? Because Narada Muni, he is situated in a transcendental modes. And when a person is situated in a transcendental modes, by seeing such a person, all other living entities will become very happy and very joyful. So this Mragari, when he sees Narad Muni, he gets completely astonished, and he is not able to understand who is this person, so blissful, so happy, so joyful. And he is constantly seeing and looking at Narad Muni. And by the time Narad Muni approaches and start talking to Mragari. So first thing Narad Muni asked to Mragari is, why are you killing this animal half? Why are you not killing them fully? Why are you giving them so much suffering? Then Mragari starts answering very respectfully that, oh great sage, I am killing those animals in such way because I was taught by my father to kill them in those ways. Narad Muni replies, oh, this is not good. You are giving lot of pain to them. See, they are crying in a pain. And when Mragari hears this, he replies back immediately, oh, well, when I hear their crying voices, I feel very joyful. I feel very happy. Narad Muni becomes very shocked. And then Narad Muni says to the Mragari that, oh Mragari, oh hunter, this is not good at all. What pain you are giving them, the very pain will come to you also. Every pain which you have given to these living entities will come back to you, and you will also have to suffer like them one day. And when Mragari hears this, he becomes taken back. He becomes surprised because he had never thought about it, and nobody had ever told him this. He never knew that these are the laws of nature. So Mragari becomes shocked and very fearful. In that state, Mragari asked to Narad Muni, oh sage, what can I do? I have no other option. I am hunter by profession, and I live my life by selling these animals and by eating their meat. So I have no other option but to kill them. Then Narad Muni says, no. You should immediately give up this business of killing the animal, and you should live complete pious life. Then when Mragari hears it, but who will take care of me? How will I get my food every day? Then Narad Muni says, don't worry. You do what I say. If you do that much, automatically your food will be taken care. Then Mragari very humbly asks, okay, you tell me what to do. Then Narad Muni starts explaining. Okay, first of all, you immediately give up your bow and arrow. Then you go to home and along with your wife, go and take bath in the river. And then move out of that dirty place where you are living, and go near the village or inside the village and make one hut and live very peacefully there. For your eating, you don't care. Just chant this Hare Krishna mantra. You plant one tulsi tree in your house and start chanting Hare Krishna mantra in front of that tulsi tree. So when Mragari hears this, he accepts very humbly, and immediately he gives up his bows and arrow, and he immediately goes back to his wife in the cottage, and he explains whatever had happened to his wife. And then both of them immediately leaves the place where they were living and go and find a beautiful place near the village and makes hut in that place and plants a tulsi tree and start chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So when Mragari and his wife start chanting Hare Krishna mantra, the news about their becoming devotee or their starting the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra spreads in the village very quickly, and all the villagers slowly start coming to know that the Mragari, the great hunter, has become a Vaishnava and he is chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So people, out of astonishment, they started visiting the Mragari's house. And when they used to visit Mragari's house, they used to carry some fruits and flowers along with them to offer to Mragari. Because it was a custom in a Vedic culture that whenever you are going to visit a saintly person, you should carry some flower or fruit at least to offer to that person. So whenever these villagers used to come to meet Mragari, they used to bring grain, fruits and flowers along with them. So in this way, Mragari started getting lot of foodstuffs. and he became very much shocked, very much surprised to see that how his guru Narad Muni's words are becoming true, and everything, all his needs are being taken care, and he continues his devotional service, and slowly he becomes freed from all the bad habits and becomes completely pure. He transcends the three modes of nature. After few days, Narad Muni along with his friend Parvat Muni were traveling in the space, and when they were traveling, they come across the place where Mrigari was living. And when they come to that place, Narad Muni asked to Parvat Muni that one of my disciple is living in this place, would you like to meet him? So Parvat Muni becomes very excited and he says, yes, I would like to meet him. So Narad Muni and Parvat Muni both lands on the earth and start walking toward the place where Mrigari was living. And when they were walking toward the place of Mrigari, Mrigari happens to see them. And when Mrigari carefully sees, he finds that his guru Narad Muni is coming. So when he sees that Narad Muni is coming, immediately he gets up and start running toward the Narad Muni to offer him obeisance, to offer him respect. And he's running and approaching Narad Muni and Parvat Muni. So when Mrigari is coming towards the Narad Muni and Parvat Muni, he is jumping. He is not walking normally or running normally. He is very carefully avoiding to step over some places, and very carefully he is jumping and coming. So Parvat Muni becomes shocked that why he is walking like this. So when finally Mrigari approaches, reach to the place where Narad Muni and Parvat Muni were standing, Parvat Muni asked the question to Mrigari that why were you jumping? When you were coming here, I saw that you were jumping and you were carefully not putting your step in some of the places. The Mrigari immediately replies, oh, when I was walking toward you, I saw that there are a lot of ants and insects on the land. So I was trying to avoid stepping over them. I was trying to avoid hurting or killing them. When Parvat Muni hears this, he becomes shocked, because Narad Muni had explained that how this Mrigari was a hunter and used to kill lot of animals and used to give lot of pain to the animals and birds. And now the same Mrigari is not ready to give pain to a small ant also. So this is the nature of a devotional service. When a person renders devotional service to Krishna, or when a person comes in touch with Krishna by any mean, he becomes completely pure from the three modes of material nature and start living a life of a transcendence, a life of a happiness. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Understand what you learned from this chapter by filling a simple form whose link is given in the description. It will make you eligible for receiving the certificate. You can also type all the questions which you have in the same form and we'll answer them through email. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any updates.